Just days after announcing a plan to resume cruising around August the 1st, Carnival Corporation's letting some people go. How the heck does that work? And guess what? They're not the only one. In today's episode of the Lido Loca Cruise Show, let's talk about business. Let's talk about layoffs. Let's talk about Viagra ads. How about that? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lido Loca Cruise Show. I'm your host, Tony. If you enjoy cruising and travel content, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of the content. Well, first and foremost, let's talk about YouTube advertising. I get this question quite a bit. How come you're showing me political ads before your video? Or how come I'm seeing a male enhancement ad before your video? Well, guess what? I got nothing to do with it. That's all you, baby. The YouTube algorithm, the YouTube robots, as I like to call it, they take a peek into your computer. They take a peek into your Apple TV or your Roku, and they see what you've been watching. They track all that stuff. I don't know if you knew that. Big Brother is watching, and their goal is to serve you the advertisement that is most pertinent to you. Now, what I have noticed lately is a lot of political ads, and I don't follow anything political. So I do believe that in this time where advertising inventory is abundant, I do believe there are some political parties buying up a lot of advertising, and YouTube is throwing it on everybody. How about you? Have you been getting an influx of political ads that you don't care about? Leave a comment below. And if you've been getting male enhancement ads, well, I'll leave that up to you and your doctor. How about that? Let's talk about cruise line layoffs. Just last week, Carnival announcing a pretty cool little plan to possibly re-enter the cruising market August the 1st. 8 ships, 3 ports. They got a goal of getting back to cruising, but they're letting people go. In a recent press release, Arnold Donald, the CEO of Carnival Corporation, says, look, in order to have the cash that we need to go forward, we gotta cut expenses. And if you've worked in business at all, if you've been in any kind of leadership, any kind of management up at the point where you have to make employee decisions, one of the easiest levers to pull to change your expense profile is to fire people or to lay them off or to furlough them, whatever language you want to use. Let me give you a personal anecdote. There was a time that I worked for a Fortune 500 company, and I worked for a company in Nashville, Tennessee. We made aviation obstruction lighting. So if you've seen those strobe lights on top of cell phone towers warning planes not to fly into them, that's kind of some of the work that we did. And during that time, I had a small IT crew. I had a crew of 3 people, and we were responsible for keeping networking up to those lights, about 30,000 of them across the country. We also had about 100 employees at the office that we worked at. We were in charge of all their computers and such, and cell phones, all that stuff that goes along with IT. Well, the word came down that even though our part of the company, super profitable, there were other parts of the company that were struggling, and so everybody had to let some people go across the board. Now, again, I just had a crew of 3, and I felt like the workload was sufficient, but the company said, look, we feel like you could do it with less people, and so we lost one of those people. It was a dude that was making about $45,000 a year. So put that in perspective, $45,000 a year. I let the guy go. It was horrible. He had a family. One of the worst things you have to do in leadership are make those kind of decisions. I didn't even make the decision, but I had to relay the decision. Not a fun day. And then a month later, I went to the corporate headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I would eventually work, because I got an award for an innovative idea that I had put forward. I had to go to this innovation conference that was held at the Ballantine Hotel. This was a swanky place, the same hotel that President Obama stayed in during his presidency there in Charlotte, North Carolina. I stayed right down the hall from the presidential suite. So I went there. There was about 100 people. They wined us. They dined us. They gave us awards. I just want to say that my plane flight alone from Nashville to Charlotte, all my travel expenses, it was about $1,500, $1,500. If you extrapolate that by 100 people, not to mention the cost of buying awards and all that kind of stuff, it was about $150,000. The whole event probably, for the 3 or 4 days they were there, probably cost a couple $100,000. So here a week before, I let a dude go making $45,000, and then in this financial crisis, the company spent a couple $100,000 to celebrate innovation. Business is the weirdest thing to me, and maybe one of the reasons why I don't do it at the corporate level anymore is because it's such a weird thing, because those kind of decisions are being made on a daily basis. And again, labor is one of the biggest levers that you can pull, and especially if there's really no work for your labor. And look, this is a different situation for the cruise lines. You have thousands of people that they're probably trying to find work for them to do, because in a scenario where operations are not going on, there are people that are just pulling a paycheck. I get it, but man, at the end of the day, that's still people. And again, maybe that's why I'm not working in leadership like that anymore, because I do have a soft spot when it comes to human beings. And that's not to say that people that are making these decisions are not compassionate. They're in leadership roles. Their back is against the wall. Their priority is keeping their business viable, keeping their business afloat. Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to expenses, labor is just one of those things where most of the time it represents a big number, and then reworking the way that you have people organized can be a way to reclaim some cash. And then at the same time, from a psychology perspective, and the way that it worked in the business that I worked at, during the recession, when times were down, the higher ups, the leadership would say, well, you just got to be excited that you have a job. So yeah, if you're doing the work of two people, if you're doing extra responsibilities, there's some people out there that can't find a job. And then, of course, on the other side of it, when things are booming and people can work wherever they want to work, you see a lot of turnover because people are chasing after a better salary. But how do you reconcile the two things? They're getting ready to open up on a limited fashion, but they're letting people go. Well, that's just the ebb and flow. So business is down. They will try to reopen, and then all of a sudden, if they open and the workload becomes more than they can handle, they'll put people back on. But for now, people are getting laid off, furloughed. And look, it's not just the low-level workers, not just crew or call center workers that are being affected by this. A couple high-level executives at Carnival also exiting currently. We have the president of Holland America Line, Orlando Ashford. He's been significant in what's been going on at Holland America for the last few years. He is exiting, and also Rick Meadows, the president of Seabourn, who's been there since about 2011, also going at this time. Their position's not currently being replaced. That is another indicator of companies that are doing all that they can to reclaim money. You'll see this happen a lot. You'll see high-level positions vacated, and then a period of time where somebody will be the interim president, somebody who already has another job, somebody who is already on the salary, and then when times get better, maybe that position will be replaced. And I've also seen it, well, you've done a good job doing two jobs. No, we're just going to do away with this position. I can't imagine them eliminating the president positions for those companies, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And like I said before, it's not just Carnival. If you caught the story I did yesterday about TUI saying they would be ready to reopen in July 2020 if they were allowed to cruise, at the same time, they've laid off about 11,000 workers also. So as the cruising shutdown goes on further, and there's not a clear definitive date when cruising as we know it will resume, I do believe that you will see more and more of these layoff scenarios as companies try to stay viable by holding on to cash. At the end of the day, this is what they believe will get them through this crisis, having enough money to pay the bills that they have without getting much revenue coming in. There will be all kinds of levers. I don't know, maybe cruise lines will sell cruise ships at some point that they have paid off. So the fallout from news like this is that the stock price affected in a negative way. If you've tracked the cruise line stocks over the last few days, they have gone from a fairly stable position to the downward spiral again. People losing their job in the cruising industry, not necessarily a unique situation. Unemployment in the United States approaching the 20 million worker mark, 20 million workers without a job. So there's a lot of people out there that are in the same boat, no pun intended, without work, with companies trying to stay afloat. I'll keep it rolling during this pandemic. That's really the question for the comments today. How is your job in the current crisis? Have you seen people at your company getting laid off? Are you fortunate enough to be able to work from home? Let's talk about what that looks like in the comments today. Hey, my name's Tony for the Lido Loca Cruise Show. I appreciate you stopping by. I'll leave a link for that TUI video right here. I just like saying TUI, and I'll let the robots pick out the other video. Make sure you check those out. Show your support for the channel by hitting the like button, watching another video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.